Hey, Ron here, and today I would like to talk about appeasement. I'd like to talk about the appeasement of fascists, and how that relates to the GOP, and, more importantly, the Democratic presidential primary. So, there's this video by Ollie Thorne, one that's a few years old now, but it's very prescient, that talks about the philosophy of anti-fascism. And in it, Ollie describes there's a word for just going along with what the fascists want. And it's considered very strong language in the UK. It's the word appeasement. So when I say that, that's where I'm coming from. Appeasement of the fascists in the Republican Party. And I would argue that that is what the federal government has been doing since at least 2010. So back in 2010, more or less what happened is the Senate, the GOP, took control of the Senate. Back then, John Boehner, I think, was the leader of the House Senate, because GOP. And him and his other people immediately started interfering with how things operated. A keyword being interfering. The GOP strategy in general, since 2010, since the election of Obama, really, has been to delay, to interfere, and to halt progress on any action that the government could take, the federal government or various state governments where the Republicans are in control. You see this all over the place. The only things that they're willing to pass, and this is something that I've said before, seem to be, at least on a federal level, the only things that they seem to be willing to pass are tax cuts for the rich and the appointment of various judges and federal positions. And that's to entrench government power. So that's to entrench the GOP power. So the Democrats responded by basically pretending that everything was going same as usual. Business as usual. That, there were some roadblocks, but, we can compromise. And, that didn't work, to put it lightly. The Senate, since 2010, has passed almost no bills. And that's since Mitch McConnell was elected the leader of the Senate, the leader of the GOP, the Speaker of the Speaker of the Senate. Yeah, since Mitch McConnell was elected the leader of the Senate, it's gotten significantly worse. But it's not all on him. That's just his benchmark strategy, I think. And that's the thing that he knows how to do, is stall and confound and some of the things that they let pass, that they didn't renew. For example, the Voting Rights Act. The GOP willfully allowed the Voting Rights Act to expire, which allowed for states to set up fucking poll taxes. Fucking poll washers are a thing that we're going to see during this election. It lets the GOP in various states do all kinds of tomfuckery to keep people from voting. Because when people vote less, the GOP wins. Every time. That's their strategy. And that is anti-democracy, very straightforwardly. The GOP has completely abandoned the idea that they are the representatives of the people, that they are the representatives of the will of the majority. Or not even the majority, not even really the minority. The Republican Party, as it is understood now, as we will understand it in future, I am fucking certain, if there is a fucking future at this point, represent the will of the oligarchs. And because the oligarchs have so much more political power than all of the average people put together, someone like Michael Bloomberg has more political power than everyone else, than everyone in New York put together. Okay, not everyone in New York put together. Say everyone who makes less than fucking... If you make $30 over minimum wage, let's say, then you and everyone like you put together, everyone who makes more than you, all of you put together have about half of the political power of Mike Bloomberg. And the GOP represents those people, not us people. And the Democrats have done nothing about that. Not a damn thing. And people know this, right? People understand this. Like, this is going to sound weird. I talk about, how I was canvassing for votes and talked to a lot of people back in 2016. And one of the things that I heard about Trump, one of the reasons that people wanted to vote for Trump is because they presumed that he was going to whip the Republican Party back into shape. He was going to start getting things done, because he was promising, or at least people presumed that he was promising, to do just that. That has not borne out, because, as we know now, Trump is an incompetent lout who only looks out for himself, and may be the most dangerous and incompetent person to ever hold the office of President of the United States. He's probably the most dangerous and incompetent person to ever hold the office of President of the United States. But people knew, even during the last election, that the GOP was fucking around with things, and that it was bad for the country. And the reason that GOP keeps winning in places, when they win, there's been a very prescient movement where they have stopped winning. They win when people don't turn out. They lose when people do turn out. One of the examples that I like giving is, Lamb, I think his name is Mike Lamb. There was an emergency election. There was an election for senator, I think it was, in Alabama, right? And in Alabama, the two candidates, were Roy Moore, noted child abuser, and Connor Lamb is his name. And people were freaking out, because Alabama is one of the most red states. Is it Alabama or Mississippi? It's either Alabama or Mississippi. I want to say it was Alabama. I'm almost certain it was Alabama. People were freaking out because they didn't want this person who had admitted to sexually abusing 15 and 16-year-olds to be in the fucking Senate. And it ended up he didn't win, because the GOP endorsed the most contentious person they possibly fucking could. And also, because people turned out to stop that man from coming into power. That's just the most prescient example I can think of offhand. There have been other more minor races where Democrats have been elected in place of Republicans, like, well, here in Illinois, you had Bruce Rauner got kicked out. He got 13% of the vote, and rightly so, because he ruined the state, or he tried to ruin the state, did everything in his fucking power to do so. I'm getting away from the point. So, this relates to the Democratic race in a very specific way. You have people like Joe Biden, right? You have people like Pete Buttigieg who are talking about working with the Republicans and, compromising with certain things. And people see that and they're calling bullshit. And I know that because I see that when I go out and talk to people. People understand that the Republican Party are fascists. That they've lied and cheated and stole their way into power. People understand that, and they do not want compromise with the GOP. That's one of the reasons that Sanders is doing so well, is because he said unilaterally that he's going to fight the GOP, and he's going to fight the GOP with us. With the people. Like, I remember there was a moment during the first debates, I remember it really well because it just fucking flabbergasted me, where Joe Biden was talking about how he was best poised to be president because he'd managed to actually compromise and cut a deal with Mitch McConnell regarding the budget back in, I think it was 2015? And it was someone else, I want to say it was John Delaney, who turned to him and said, "No, you idiot! You didn't cut a deal, you got scammed!" Bear in mind, I'm pretty sure that deal that was cut was permanently extending the Bush tax cuts. And it was bad for everyone. And it laid the groundwork of the tax cuts that Trump enacted, which have broken the economy, more or less. Broken in the sense that even though things look like they're doing really good, they're not. They're only doing good for the top fraction of 1%. And everyone else is getting fucked. But no one's reporting on that because everyone's so used to there being this... Again, I'm meandering off point again. My point is this. The GOP are fascists. Even if not every individual member of the GOP are fascist, they're not. The party is acting in a fascist manner. They are enacting fascist policies, they are doing fascist things. They are setting up border camps, they are preparing for ethnic cleansing, they are enacting ethnic cleansing right fucking now. And they need to be unilaterally opposed. People know this. People I talk to know this. They talk about it. And the Democratic Party is not going to win if they do not have a candidate that is willing to unilaterally fight the GOP. And as of now, that's two people. That's Warren and that's Sanders. Not Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg, like... Okay, minor tangent. I'm not going to spend more than like a minute on this, but it makes sense that Michael Bloomberg, even though he's run as a Republican in the past, is running as a Democrat now because the Overton window on the right has shifted that far. Like, fucking, the GOP, people in the GOP right now are talking about putting babies in death camps. Not death camps, but prison camps. Putting babies in prison camps because their parents illegally crossed the border. It's fucking absurd. The GOP is talking about letting children get slaughtered in schools to protect the right to own a thing. It's absurd. The GOP has absconded into absurdity, and it just so happens that Mike Bloomberg is not an absurd man. And that's not me don't misunderstand, that's not me standing for Bloomberg. I'm standing for Bernie. But, Bloomberg is a piece of shit. I might have to do a video about fucking Bloomberg and his shittiness, or at least link a video about Bloomberg and his shittiness at some point. But I can't do that right now, because I'm very busy. Very busy. I've got a lot of stuff to do today. I'd like to talk more at length about this thing. I've had this idea in my head for a while, but I think I've said everything I need to say about it. And today's going to be a long and arduous day. I've got to go up to the hospital. There's an emergency that the people in my family have been preparing for, and today's the day that it's going to happen, so I'm going to go up there with them, and I'm not sure when I'll be back. I might not even be able to post this. I don't know yet. So, I know I've been banging on this, and I know that that's annoying, but, like, now more than any time in the past, I could really use some financial assistance. If you have some money that you can contribute, any amount of money that you contribute would be appreciated so very much. We're not, even besides, like, not being sure about insurance covering any of the things that we need done, because, you know, we live in the shitty American healthcare system where your life is only worth as much as, where it's not even your life, it's your life is a product to be sold to the highest fucking bidder. Something else I'm gonna make a video about. But yeah, not only that, but like there are still bills that we need to pay. I haven't been able to go around and do stuff to get money to get bills paid. And to everyone who's been contributing money to me, I thank you so much for that. I've been using it, and it's been very helpful. And I just, anything is helpful. Please don't feel guilty if you don't have anything to give. I understand how hard things are for everyone. My job, more or less, as someone who's politically active, is to understand how hard it is for everyone. But if you do have something, it would be very much appreciated. Because I'm going to be in the hospital for a long time, I guess, I'm not going to be active online after I post this. But I will be active on Twitter, so if you want to chat with me or see how things are going, I might talk about what's going on. I've been tight-lipped about it because I've had bad experiences with talking about family matters in the past. Online, at least. But yeah, I'm not going to be active on Discord, and I'm not going to be active on YouTube, but I will be active on Twitter because my phone has Twitter, which is nice. I also have an email. Feel free to email me about any leftist projects and my Curious Cat. I'll answer Curious Cat questions when I get back from the hospital, I suppose. I'm not going to be able to... I didn't have any time. I have 2 scripts. They're ready to go. More than 2 scripts, actually, but 2 major scripts I've been working on since mid-December that are ready to go. I just haven't had time to film them because everything's so busy. And, yeah. I don't know when those will be coming out, but I'll put them out as soon as I can. So yeah, until we get there, take care of yourselves, alright?